And last but not least, Harris Freedman. Head watchmaker at NYC Watchmaking, and a friend of mine for a couple of years now. Harris has even prepared some of my vintage pieces that I thought would never come back to life, and you just did wonders. Harris, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we're gonna start from the top. We have 10 questions for you. First one, wrist check. What do you got for us?
I have a 1979 Rolex Submariner 1680. What's interesting about it is it does not have the Cyclops crystal. It's got one from a 5513. My wife got it for me as a surprise engagement present 2.5 years ago, which was really nice and really surprised me. It was a grail of mine for a really long time. Pretty much the watch that kind of got me into watches to begin with. And she happens to hate Cyclopses, so she never wanted to get me one. But the dealer happened to have one without it, so she picked that up, and I've kept it that way ever since.
And what is it that, you said this was a favorite of yours for a while, what is it about the Submariner that really drew you to it?
It's like the watch that brought me into watches way a long time ago. Always really liked James Bond as a kid, watched the movies like every weekend. And like, you know, James Bond's all about his gadgets and his cars. So, you know, like whatever Q branch gave him, I was always into, and it must have been the like saw bezel Submariner that I like noticed it, and like it was, I think it was the first time I ever noticed a watch, and it just kind of stuck with me forever. And then you know, anytime I would see someone with a vintage sub on, I'd always just think, God, that looks so good. So like I just always lusted after them. And then, you know, whenever I'd get close to being able to afford one, like the price would then double, and then I'd be like, all right, I'll save up some more, and then I'd get close to being able to afford it, and then the price would double again, and then just like always seemed just like just out of grasp for like what I would want to spend on a watch.
Oh yeah.
So it was really nice that I was finally able to get it, and it was such a sentimental gift at the same time. Honestly, I haven't actually worn a different watch that's like been my own since I got it.
Oh, so this has been your daily wear since
every day.
then?
Every day for the last 2.5 years. The only times I won't wear it is, you know, if I'm going to the gym, sleeping, showering, or you know, if I'm wearing a client's watch to test it out to make sure it's running right on the wrist in real world use.
Are you still lifting now as well?
I am a little bit. So like I took a little time off because of COVID and all that, lost a little weight, got a little sad about it, but built out a gym in my garage now. So I have like all the weights and everything there. So I'm being a little more chill about it, not taking it seriously, but yeah.
And the heart of this video is really all about what does your watch say about you? And as a sub guy, what do you think, do people notice it? Do people look at you differently? What kind of statement do you think you're sending out into the world?
So it's, I think I'm like, say, classic cool guy with taste. That's what I'd like to say. A lot of people probably think I'm just like Wall Street guy, or, you know, no imagination. I've heard a lot of people say about subs because everyone wants them, but to be honest, most people don't even notice it. I think they think it's like an old ratty watch if they're not a watch person. The only time I get compliments on it are from watch people, which I actually kind of really enjoy. I don't really like to be flashy or anything like that, so I think it really works well that way.
Do you get any of the James Bond feeling when you strap it on?
You know, I never thought about that. I don't,
no?
But maybe if it had a saw blade or some other special use, but no, I just, you know, it just feels like home to me. I put it on and it feels weird if I'm not wearing it. Yeah.
And without further ado, I see we have some other watches here. You want to give us a little tour?
Yeah, so I figured I'd bring some other watches that used to be daily wears of mine, or ones that were kind of had a nice story or important, especially considering I don't really wear any other watches anymore. So I still have these, haven't sold them, probably won't ever sell them, but brought them with me. First one is this Omega Geneve. It's gold plated, has crosshair dial. I got it at a flea market in Italy, actually. I was going to Italy for a month.
Okay, yeah.
In the Uber, on the way to the airport, looked down at my wrist to check the time, see if I was gonna make my flight. Didn't want to miss it. Realized I forgot to bring a watch. Didn't have enough time to turn around. Didn't want to pay for another Uber. So I was in Italy, no watch, and it felt really weird. So I was in Parma, probably 1-2 weeks in, happened upon a flea market, found a dude selling a bunch of not great watches. That was in the pile, picked it up for €300. Went to set the time right after I left and paid him, and the crowd immediately fell off. But luckily I knew a guy who can take care of that. So got it on and just wore it for the rest of the trip. And honestly, I haven't really worn it much since. My wife really liked it, so she wore it pretty much every day for a little while.
What's the size on this one?
36, could be 34. I'm not 100% sure, but wears really well. Goes pretty much with anything. Yeah.
Next up, what do we got?
Next up, we have my grandfather's watch, actually. I never really wore this one. It was given to me. I thought it was really cool because the hour markers spell out John L. Tribuno, which I guess is the company he worked for. It was a vermouth company and he was the salesperson, is the story I've been told. So I guess at some point they gave him that watch. It's made by Caravel. Seems to be in pretty good condition still.
Yep.
You don't see a lot of things with the hour markers as not like numbers or dashes or something.
Yeah,
and
it's
funny that the company spells out to exactly 12 letters. So it's, I thought it was a cool story. And as my grandfather's watch is something I'm never gonna sell, I'll always hold on to, and it's sentimental to me.
Yeah, this is great. And I love the printing on the dial, vermouth sweet and dry.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah. Next up, we have a watch that I had as a daily wear for a while, an old Grand Seiko High Beat. Really like it. It's one of the manual wind ones, so it's a little thinner. A lot of purists like the manual wind instead of the automatic. I kind of like both, but it happened to be the one I got.
Yeah, it sits on the wrist really well.
It wears very well. It dresses up really nicely, looks great with a suit. I lent it to my mom for about 3 months when I was fixing one of her watches, and then when I got it back, she absolutely destroyed the crystal. I think her wrist is really small, so like she'd be at work and would flip around to the bottom, and she'd be typing, and like she wouldn't even notice. And her eyesight's so bad, she had no clue. But it's fine. I don't really wear it too much anymore, so I just kind of left it as is. But I'm a big Seiko fan.
Yeah, this case design is great, and from a movement standpoint as well, they do an amazing job.
Especially the old ones. The movements were just so great and really rivaled a lot of the other high watchmaking from Europe and especially Switzerland.
All right, we got a couple more here.
We have the first mechanical watch I ever bought because, of course, I'm a sub guy.
Yep.
Couldn't afford it, so what do you get next? You get an SKX.
There we go, yeah. Baby
so I
sub.
bought it. I loved it. Wore it every day. It's pretty hefty. It's thick. It's 42 millimeters, but honestly, it wears really well. The like lug to lug distance is pretty short. Honestly, I'd still probably wear it as a beach watch if I weren't going to take my Submariner. But it's a classic. You can't go wrong with it.
Very cool. And last but not least,
last one is another Seiko. Like I said, I'm a Seiko guy. It's a early Pogue. So I'm a big fan of these because, again, it's one of the supposedly first automatic chronographs ever made. The Zenith and the Caliber 11
by
Heuer, Breitling, and I forget the third company that they worked with.
Yeah, some companies teamed up. Or
they all teamed up, came together,
we'll figure it out.
Made an automatic chronograph that never existed before. All three movements came out the same year, so people argue which was actually first. This is one of them. So early Pogue, automatic chronograph, has the notch case. So it's really cool. Wore that, probably was my daily wear when I was learning watchmaking. So it's sentimental for me for that reason. Also just like cool design, went to space. Can't go wrong with it.
This case shape, this bracelet is interesting. And I mean, the bezel here, super, super cool dial layout. Yeah, a lot of personality for what's a pretty approachable piece.
I don't remember what I paid for. I got in like a lot of watches from a friend, and it was the only one that was worthwhile. The rest was junk, and then a bunch of straps that I still have hanging around that are trashy. I don't know what they trade for now. I think the prices have gone up a bit, but I have no interest in getting rid of that one. So,
and we see kind of your, your taste here, your journey here. What kinds of things do you look for when you're looking to buy a watch?
So people ask me that, they're like, hey, what's a good watch to get? What watch should I get? And what I live by is what I tell everyone else to do, which is like, buy what makes you happy. You know, sure, there's like, you know, some brands out there that are like weird or sketchy, but like, don't buy something because everyone else wants it, or it's a hype piece, or, you know, someone else thinks it's cool, you want cred or whatever. Like, buy what you like. If you think it's a cool design, you really like it, you want it, you know, if it speaks to you, buy it. So like, that's what I do. That's why I got first automatic chronograph. You know, I'm into movements and stuff like that. It's also a cool, funky design, you know. Seiko is a great brand for a great price, really good value. So I got a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I like things with stories.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next question is, I feel like because of your experience in watchmaking, you have, you know, background that a lot of other watch people don't. Does that affect the way you buy watches? Are you more into the movement side versus the design side, or like what, yeah, what's your thought process there?
You know, it's really a balance for me. Like, I don't know if I'd buy a watch just for the design if it had a crappy movement in it. Maybe if it weren't expensive and I was just like, oh, whatever. But for me, I look for something with a nice story. Usually I just like old things too. It's the same thing with cars. I don't ever really want anything new. And then just like, if it grabs my attention, that's what I look for.
Other watchmakers that you know, is there kind of like a go-to favorite among them, or like, oh yeah, this is definitely like a watchmaker's watch?
Most watchmakers I know, at least ones who deal with like vintage and stuff like that, they'll either have like a steel sport Rolex. They're just great movements. They're made really well. They hold up really well.
I was gonna ask, are they as durable as people say?
They're super durable. They are. They really are. Or I'll see them with like just random old vintage, like not expensive vintage dress watch, which I also kind of respect. You know, like something that looks like the old Omega, but like, you know, could be from any old brand. A lot of American stuff, old Bulivas, Walthams, Hamiltons. That's the stuff I see a lot of watchmakers wearing.
Do you think there's any pressure being an expert in that regard to like, oh, I have to choose this thing, or I have to like kind of do an enthusiast level piece, or is it more just, yeah, buy what you love?
You just buy what you love. You know, I don't really feel any pressure at all anymore. You know, I wear what I like, but I mean, like, I feel that way in life about everything, so I might be a little different than most.
What I want to get to next is, we kind of see a progression here. Has your tastes changed over time, or are you pretty much just like, I want to end at a sub, so therefore I'm going to start with the Seiko? Has it been, or did you like kind of jump around?
A little bit of both. So always wanted the sub, that never changed, and I have it now. And then the other things I've been interested in was, there was like a lot of like old classic chronographs I was really into for a while, like old Angeluses, anything, just like a classic 3-register, not too big, just very clean. I don't really have a super urge for that anymore. So yeah, I've kind of moved away from, your more classic, conventional, traditional looking stuff to kind of more sporty things. But like the way I also used to dress and how I dress now has changed dramatically too. Back then I was wearing suits every day. So like something more classic and traditional really went well with that. And there was just a wide range of vintage options that fell in that. Now I almost never wear a suit and want something a little more fun to wear, if I were to do something other than my sub. So I tend to like stray away from those. It might be because I see them all the time. As a watchmaker, that's possibly one of the downsides. I see all these different watches, very cool ones all the time. So it kind of helps keep me from like really lusting after them and wanting to buy them. Because like I see them, I can put them on my wrist, I touch them, I play with them all the time. So it really satisfies that urge.
And this question isn't on our list, but I am curious now that you brought it up. Without naming names or anything like that, any cool watches come across your desk recently?
There's always things that come across my bench. The funny thing is, most of the time I'm like a little too busy to really like actually sit and enjoy them. I'll just be like, oh wow, that's really cool. And I have to take it apart and fix it, you know. I don't have time to like sit and hang out with it. But every now and then like some really cool stuff does come across, like Marine Nationale Tudor has come across in the past. And like that's, you know, like I'll take the extra couple of minutes to look at it, or, you know, I know it's really cool if it's something where like when I'm done with it, if I like don't have to check it on my wrist and it's just good to like sit there or go on the winder to check it out. If like I put it on my wrist and I want to take a photo anyway, I'm like, oh, that's a good watch.
And for people who are into vintage and things like that, do you know, as someone who gets under the hood, any like tips for collecting things or things to watch out for, or like if people want to take on a DIY project, like any kind of words of wisdom to pass along?
Always good if it's running. If it's not running, it could be a multitude of things. Could be easy, it could be really not easy. Stay away from rust. Watch looks rusted, looks like any water get in, run away. Yeah, if it looks like the balance or hairspring screwed up, usually not great. That's a lot of effort and time, which would turn into money to fix it, or you just have to replace it, and that's usually the most expensive part. So anything with those issues, run away. Otherwise, yeah, most things that say they're serviced on eBay usually aren't.
Yep.
They say they're running well, expect it to be like, be happy if it's within a minute a day.
Oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the really old stuff, that's about as good as you can get without swapping out the whole movement or doing like all the parts. And you know, some people don't want to do that. Some people want to keep everything as original as possible, and they'll deal with plus or minus a minute a day. Some people want, you know, chronometer spec, and then, you know, replace every single wheel and all the jewels if we have to. So it kind of depends on what you're down for, if you want to restore it or if you want to preserve it.
Yeah, because that's how we got connected in the first place. I was going through the online bargain bins and things like that. And I was like, Harris, I'm thinking about buying this watch. I know it's destroyed on the inside. How many hundreds and thousands of dollars is this going to cost to come back to life?
I have a lot of clients still send me like eBay listings. They're like, is this a good deal? I'm like, wow, it looks really cool, run. Or I'm like, no, that's great, you should buy it, definitely. Yeah.
And okay, so getting back to collecting, you are on the more deliberate side. Is there a grail watch that you have in mind?
So I haven't actually really had the urge to buy anything since I got this watch. Probably because my taste is really expensive and anything I would actually want to buy is too expensive. Having said that, there are two that I want that I've also wanted for a long time that I know I said don't buy things that are hype or anything like that totally are now, but I can't help it. 5402 AP Jumbo would be great. Super classic, you know, great movement, super great design, wears great on the wrist. Or Patek 3700, you know, also super classic design. I mean, designed by the same person, they have the same movement inside of them. Extremely overpriced, both of them, but I can't help but want them. The only other one that would not be that would probably be a datograph. Just again,
which is also
probably one of the best
there.
movements. Getting up there in price for sure. Yeah, so those would be the three, and that's why I'm not actually looking to get a watch, because I don't know if I'll ever want to spend that much money on one.
Yeah, you are a sucker for punishment with those choices.
I have expensive taste, I can't help it.
And our last question here is, in the near future, like if you had to get another watch, what would it be?
Something that spoke to me. You know, like if something like the Omega, walking through Italy, seeing the flea market and just being like, that's cool, I'll buy it. Something with a story. It ended up being something like that. So I couldn't really say like, oh, it's gonna be this model or that model, or like, I'm really looking at these models. It's you know, everything's just gotta come together perfectly.
If you lost your sub, would you replace it with another one?
Oh, I don't even want to think about that. Yeah, I mean, I would, of course. I hope that never happens. I don't want to lose the sub. But then I'd have to think, you know, like, would I stick with the 1680? Would I get a Cyclops? Maybe a 5513? You know, all these options.
And you don't feel any pressure to like go out and buy stuff all the time, or you out the game?
I wouldn't say I'm like out of the, I'm always looking, you know. mostly I'll keep my eyes out because I have a running list of like things I know that clients like, things that I know that they'd want. So like I try and help them out, you know, things family likes or whatever, always help them out. So I'm always looking, always out there, but nothing's matched up. Nothing's come together perfectly to make me want to scratch the itch. The problem is I'm also very much into vintage cars. So, you know, for me, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to spend $80,000 on a watch,
Yeah.
I could spend $80,000 on a car, you know, and that's kind of the direction that currently in my life I'm sitting in. So that's kind of helped pull me away a little bit from buying watches. It helps that, again, I see the watches every day. I get to play with them. So it's you know, it's not like I'm missing them.
And just to touch on this real quick, as I do know there are people who are interested in this sort of thing, car radar, what's coming up?
I've got two things on my list. So vintage air-cooled 911, looking at, you know, probably an SC Targa, could be a 3.2 Targa. One of those two. It's, you know, the best entry point for price. You know, they're also going to be a little more reliable, have to worry about rust a little bit less than some of the earlier ones. Other thing would be a GTV 2000 Alpha. Really like those. They're just really good looking cars. They sound great. I'm only allowed one more car according to my wife, so I'll have to make a choice. We'll see. Maybe I could slowly push her in the other direction. So who knows?
Are you going to get into car repairs in addition to watch repairs?
It's funny you say that. One of the things I do on the week, I have a 91 BMW E30 325iX. It's my daily driver. I take it to the track now. I love it, super fun. It's the thing I do other than watches. So I try and do as much of the work as I can myself. So I have my garage set up, half of it's the gym, the other half is my car and all of the tools to fix it. So yeah, if I'm not fixing watches on the weekend, I'm usually tinkering in my car.
Very cool. Well, Harris, thanks for stopping by today. Love hearing your journey, your insight as a watchmaker. You can find Harris at NYC Watchmaking, head watchmaker there. Harris, thanks for coming through. It's always a pleasure.
Great to be here. Thanks so much.
Of course. And for you guys at home, thanks for tuning in. That's all the time we got. See you next time and enjoy your watches.